Welcome back to the Factor This interview studio brought to you by OATI. I'm Factor This editor-in-chief John Engel, joined once again by Ali Apakchi, Chief Visionary Officer for OATI. Ali, it's great to see you. I always enjoy our conversation.
I'm pleased to be here and thank you for this opportunity.
Yeah, we've had many of them over the years, but each time I seem to learn a little bit more than I had before we chat. So help me understand first, before getting into the weeds a bit, where OATI sits in the energy transition. How are you enabling what is one of the biggest evolutions we've seen in decades?
Yes, indeed. We are seeing major changes in the way the power system and utility industry is is operating now, is going to be operating in the future with the blurring of the boundaries between distribution and transmission, retail operation and wholesale operation, and that is creating a significant amount of opportunities, but at the same time, it's challenging for many of the utility folks to going through that transition. So we are very pleased to be a major player in this process to enable utilities navigate these changes.
Yeah, and OATI cut its teeth in bulk power trading and is now getting really involved at the distribution level. And I hear you guys and your executive team talk about this concept of enterprise to edge all the time.
Correct.
Help me understand what that means and why it's an important context to think about in this broader story of the energy transition.
Nowadays, the lot of the changes happening in industry are driven as a consumer-led and a technology-driven. And with those changes, the impact is at the spanning from the enterprise, utility enterprise and a bulk power operation, system operation, all the way down to the edge of the grid where the consumers are and where the lot of the technology being deployed. And so we are very pleased to be able to connect those things together and bring the capabilities end to end from making it available at the enterprise level to the operators and the utility management, as well as trickling that or passing the information all the way down to and delivering value to consumers that are at the edge of the grid.
I like that you point that out and frame it that way, connecting the dots. I feel like that's been a theme broadly in the industry for probably the last 6 months to a year. And you're hearing a lot about that one platform or single pane of glass. I know OATI loves to say. And you think about your role also in kind of three buckets, the pre-operations, actual operations and then post-ops. What does that mean and why do you guys characterize that way?
Well, certainly the operation part of the utilities these days, or in the past also, managed through their control centers and their operation folks, the OT side of the utility. However, the fact that you have a lot of capabilities coming from consumers and the edge of the grid, you have to deal with consumers. And in the past and perhaps in the future, the interactions with the consumers and customers, etc., done through IT type systems, they're not stringent like the way the grid is operating. However, you have to basically enroll the customers through the what we call pre-operations, interact with customers, and then bring their capabilities to the utility operations, the OT side of the business, and then manage the grid reliability and capabilities. But after the fact, you have to compensate those customers that provided the services. So that comes back to the IT side of it, post-operations, that provides interactions with customers and alike. And then this change in the end-to-end enterprise to edge element requiring utilities to adjust their own operations, basically build bridges between different traditional silos that they had and go through some serious change management in their operations to make these connections happen. And that's what has created opportunities that we are very glad to be part of.
And we're talking about the tech, but then we need to have the conversation of, okay, what's it all for?
Correct.
And in the context of virtual power plants, you're talking about compensating customers. What kind of role can VPPs play long-term in providing grid services, from going from concept and cool idea to, okay, this can actually help keep the grid afloat and keep it humming.
Correct. The fact that there is significant amount of flexibility exists on the edge of the grid at the customer side, especially with the emergence of electrification of transportation, EVs, and deployment of distributed energy resources and level of automation that is happening with the buildings and industries and connectivity of capabilities, energy consuming assets will be able to be remotely controlled. So aggregation of those creates a significant amount of capabilities that can support the bulk power operation. And the concept of virtual power plants is that aggregation that builds the bridge between the consumers, grid operations, and the compensation that comes back to the consumers at the end of the day when they provided those services.
And you can't just operate in one utility silo
Correct.
to make a VPP function.
Correct.
It really does touch so many different areas of the business. Ali Apakchi, thanks for joining me in the Fact
You're
to This
welcome.
interview studio.
Thank you much.